We may do things a little bit different today because some people have got things to do. I'd like to start off with a short prayer, if I may. Blessed are you, O Lord our God, King of the universe. Boy, do you do things in a spectacular way, sir. It has been one interesting week. And we'll talk about that later as best I know how. But it was a demonstration of your power and your care for us, and how you have always cared for us, and how you have always involved yourself in the minutia of our lives. And we thank you for that, Father. And we thank you for everything that you have done for us. We thank you specifically for your Son, Yeshua. It's through our belief in him that we can spend eternity with you. Help me today to say what you want me to say. And I ask this in your Son's precious name, Jesus the Messiah, our Savior, and a special friend of each one of us. Amen. Amen. Sandy, would you start us off with the blessing for the reading of the Torah? Okay. Now I'd like to talk to you about something. I sort of wish at times that I was like the 200 men from the tribe of Zebulun who could read the signs of the time. But I'm not that good, and I'm thankful that I'm not, because I don't think I'd like to see some of the things that the signs portray. Interesting things happened this week. A rocket launch was postponed again and again and again. I think 3 times before it finally lifted off. Thursday, I believe it is. They lifted off very successfully. They're in a pickle-shaped orbit around the Earth, waiting a year so that they can use the Earth's gravitational field to slingshot them out to Mars. It's 2 rockets on it, 2 spaceships on it, to investigate the planet Mars, to check on its atmosphere. The atmosphere on Mars is pretty slim, almost non-existent. And one of the things they said was, the solar flares, the things that the sun does, has eaten the atmosphere of Mars, so it doesn't have any atmosphere. The question arose to me is, why didn't the rocket go off the first time it was supposed to go off? Well, Tuesday night, there was a very, very beautiful light show. When I was stationed in England, I managed to see the Aurora Borealis twice, but mostly in greens and blues. But the pictures that I saw of the one that happened on Tuesday night was basically red all over. And what it was the magnetic field of the Earth, based on a liquid iron core, deflecting solar particles from the sun. Those particles are the particles that would eat our atmosphere. But because God, in his infinite wisdom and his knowledge and his ability and his concern for us, gave us a protection from the solar wind, the Earth's magnetic field. Is he concerned for us? Yes. My question is this: what does that sign mean? I could stand up here and say, well, one of the things that shows me is he's in control. And he doesn't let things happen that he doesn't want to have happen. because that spaceship couldn't take off when they first decided to send it up. It was delayed and delayed and delayed, maybe because it didn't want to go through the solar junk that the sun was putting out to injure things. So he caused it not to happen. That's my Father. That's your Father. He is intimately aware of each one of us, and he deals with us in a very interesting way. So that was a sign. I don't know what it meant, but it was his sign. It meant something. So we need to be cognizant of watching and even sometimes listening to what God is saying or showing or putting up a sign of some sort. Okay, enough of that. I'd like to talk about Sarah for a minute. And since I like to read a little bit, I think I better read some of it so I don't get a mistake. Genesis 17:15. And God said to Abraham, as far as Sarai, let's see, that's Sarai, your wife, thou shalt not call her name Sarai, but Sarah. That's Sarah. And Sarah shall be her name. It's interesting. My princess, the princess of the world. This is an H, but it looks something like an R. So some people say this is SRR something. In the Greek, they use two R's for her name, but it's just SRH. But it looks like SRR. These forms seem to be derived from the same root as the word Israel, which is this one down here, ISRAL. Here's the SR. Now, you and I both know what SR is. It's in the name of our assembly, Beth Sar Shalom. It means prince, ruler. So in this respect, if everything is right, the name Sarah means ruler of some sorts. And we can look at it and we can say, that in Genesis 17:16, the Father told Abraham this, kings of peoples will be of her. So she is a royalty because kings come from her. Sometimes we get the idea that Sarah had some problems. She was human like we are. In Genesis 12, 13, and 15, Abraham is told that he's going to be the father of many children, of many nations. Sarah undoubtedly heard this. So when you go to Genesis 16, chapter 16, verse 1. Oh, I should have turned this on already. Genesis 16:1. Now Sarah's wife, or Sarah, Abram's wife, had not borne him children. She was beautiful and barren. And she's the first beautiful, barren woman that's in God's first family, the Jewish people. Because there's several others, and there's even some in the New Testament. Why? Because we need to become accustomed to understanding miraculous births and the fact that God has his hands on everything that happens. So Sarah said to Abraham, "Look now, Adonai has prevented me from having children. Go, please, to my slave girl. Perhaps I'll get a son by her. Perhaps I will get a son by her." Abram listened to Sarah's voice, and we know what happened. The book of Genesis is full of a lot of firsts. Sarah is the first beautiful barren person we read about. Sarah might be the first person who did something. Kroener's commentary, I know what Genesis 16 says in the first 3 verses, but it doesn't talk about her motives and what she was thinking. Abram was promised children. Sarah couldn't give him children, so she provided a way for him to have children. She did something another matriarch did, is she did something to help God keep his promise to have Abram get children. She took it upon herself to do something to help God. I grant you, it doesn't work very well most of the time. And it didn't work very well this time either. So, I have a lot of compassion for Sarah because she was trying to do something. And I think she gets a bad name because she gave another woman to her husband as a wife. But I want you to think of it this way. I want to go to Isaiah, and I want you to hear what the Father thinks of Abraham and Sarah, how he commends them and holds them up as an example of what he wants. Isaiah chapter 51, verses 1 and 2. This is the Father speaking. Hearken to me, ye that follow after righteousness, ye that seek the Lord. Look unto the rock whence you are hewn, and to the hole of the pit whence ye are digged. Look unto Abraham your father, and to Sarah that bare you. For I called him alone, and blessed him, and increased him. Sounds like the Father was happy with Sarah and Abraham. And he records how he feels about them. They're an example to us, an example that our roots matter. We are to be cognizant of our roots and, well, stand on their shoulders and do better than they did. That's why the Father thinks about Abraham and Sarah as well as he does. Now, excuse me a second, about Sarah, I think. But I would like to read something else. I'd like to start the reading off today because I put some notes in here in the first 2 verses. So let's go to Genesis chapter 23, verses 1 and 2. And if I may, and Sarah was 107 and 20 years old. These were the years of the life of Sarah. Little note. Abraham was 137 years old when she died. Ishmael was 51. Isaac was 35. And Sarah died in Kitharaba, the same as Hebron in the land of Canaan. And Abram came to mourn for Sarah and to weep for her. Obviously, he would do that. The question I have about this verse is this is the second time that I would have thought that Isaac's name would have been used. The first time was in the reading last week where it said Abraham came down from the mountain where he was going to sacrifice Isaac, joined the two men, and they went to Beersheba. Isaac wasn't mentioned. Where was Isaac? This is the second time now that Isaac's name is not mentioned, the death of his mother. And we know that there was feelings, Isaac had feelings for his mother. We'll read about that later. This is the second time Isaac has not been mentioned. Question comes up, where's Isaac? Or maybe a better question is, why didn't God include Isaac in these two instances? I don't know. So, then let's go to chapter 23, verse 3. And whoever would like to start reading, would you please? I've got to catch my voice. This is the first recorded funeral in the Bible. It is interesting. Abraham walked the land, and God told him the land that he walked on was going to be his. And here's Abraham buying a parcel of land. Overpaid for it, but he bought it. The first piece of land that was bought in the promised land by a Hebrew. There was another piece of land bought in the land of promise, and that was by David when he bought Mount Moriah, where the temple sits. God said, this land is mine. It will not be sold forever because it's mine. So in essence, the Hebrew people, the Israelites, are, oh boy, terrible word, are sharecroppers on the land. They can use it for whatever it is, and they can barter it back and forth between themselves, but it's not to be sold forever. It's supposed to go back to the original owner once every 50 years. But Abram bought a parcel. He had to, because he didn't want to have his wife buried in a borrowed grave. Just a thought. Yes?
So did the Jewish people, they bought land from the Ottoman Empire and came back to Israel in more recent history.
Absolutely. Why did they do that? So that they can't say that the Israelites stole the land from them. They bought it from them so that they couldn't accuse them of stealing. So every time you hear somebody say, the Jewish people stole the land, no, they bought the land. It's God's promise to them, but they still bought it from the people who were on it so that they didn't have a word to say. Does that make sense? Good. So, you know the rest of the story about that. So, Abram buries his wife. Guess what? Isaac is not mentioned again. He's not mentioned as being at her funeral. I don't know where he is. Let's skip to chapter 24. starting in verse 1. Abraham's servant was obviously a servant of God also, right? I mean, it does sound that way. So even the servants in Abraham's household were believers. They were God-fearers, if you want to use that term for that time and frame. A God-fearer. And Abraham laid down some stipulations. And the servant agreed with those stipulations and did what his master told him to do. And do we not think that this is a divine occurrence? God plans things. Things happen the way He wants it to. By the way, this is also the first time in the Bible that a formal ritual for betrothal, an agreement between two families, is talked about, is established. This is how it is to go about. They converse with each other. They talk with each other. They come into agreement with each other. And it's done under the inspiration of the Holy Spirit. This is I hate to say it like this, this is a perfect way to start a marriage. Mm-hmm. Everybody in agreement with God. And it also shows how He likes to be involved in those things that affect His people, just like He's involved in those things that affect us. He enjoys that. It gives Him pleasure to be involved in our lives. Because it says, I forget the exact place, but something along the lines, and I'm going to paraphrase it, is God does what pleases Him. It is His pleasure that He does things. And here is a way of doing it. We are going to see how do I want to do it? A betrothal in some respects. And it's done in this manner again and again and again. And why is the well there? What is the importance of the well? Because it's involved in many, many marriage contracts, or the starting of marriage contracts, especially for the patriarchs and the matriarchs. I thought about that. Why is it always there? And then I go to places in the Bible where it talks about living water. And you have living water in wells because it's moving, it's not stagnant. And what does a marriage contract have to do with living? Oh, it's the beginning of new life. So you're getting new life at a well that has living water. That was the only thing I could come up with. Whether it's right or wrong, I don't know. But the idea of living water and life begins at conception. And here the water is right there at the beginning of the marriage, the conception of the marriage. There's living water and there's life. Now, we all know the story after this, how things go. Rebecca brings water, gives water to the servant, then she waters the camels. And we've all heard how much water that takes. But what is one of the things that shows? It shows she's willing, and she doesn't waste time. She ran to do it. And that's one of the reasons God picked her. Is because she was willing to do things.
To serve.
To serve, yes, absolutely. Oh,
Earl,
yes.
a couple of things regarding that. For us believers in Messiah, then we can look to the woman at the well out of the city Sychar there. It's almost a direct application. Particularly when you were talking about living water, it speaks directly to that, at least to us, Messianic believers. The other issue is that Isaac's mother, Sarah, she had those elements of character like her husband. Her tent was open, she was gracious and giving, and so those characteristics here are seen in Rebekah, and when she eventually comes before him, he sees that and brings her into his mother's tent.
Okay.
There's a lot of symbology there.
You're absolutely right. You got ahead of me. Thank you.
Sorry.
Now, we will get there in just a minute. But a little different path, if that's okay. When it comes to the family of the Israelites, if you don't have a map, you don't know how it's all put together. And this is the family, and it's all interwoven. And it all starts with Terah. And Rebekah is related to Isaac. And they're going to be married. Sarah is related to Abraham, and they're married. When Jacob goes to Laban, who's a family member, by the way, to find wives, all those wives are related to Jacob through Terah. And we talk about Ishmael. We've mentioned him just ever so slightly. One of Ishmael's daughters married Esau. Back into the line. So if you don't have one of these, it took me a while to figure out how to do this. But it's worthwhile looking, because you can look at it and see who's related to who and how it all goes together. And
Make copies of that?
if you would like copies, I will make copies and bring them next week, if I'm well. So everyone like a copy?
Yeah, sure.
Oh boy, 40 copies. Yes, I shall do that.
Just print about 2436.
Okay, now we know what happens. And we know how it ends. And it goes like this in verse 28. Nope, we're not going to go there. We're going a little bit further to get to where you wanted to go. When it was decided that Rebekah would go, her brother and her mother's, primarily her brother, wanted to stay a little while longer, and they ended up asking Rebekah whether or not she would go with the servant, and she said, "I will go." So they sent her. And we know she rode on a camel. She saw him out in the distance. She fell off the camel, or she departed quickly off the camel. However she got to the ground, it doesn't make any difference. She got there, she put a veil on, and she ran to Isaac.
Love at first sight.
Yes, fulfillment of what God was giving. In chapter 24, verse 67. Then Isaac brought her to the tent of Sarah, his mother. He took Rebekah, and she became his wife, and he loved her. So Isaac was comforted after the loss of his mother, and Isaac became the second patriarch, and she became the second matriarch. And this one statement here, then Isaac brought her to the tent of Sarah, his mother. Abraham had a tent. We all know what went on in Abraham's tent. He talked to everybody about the living God. We're not told so much about what goes on in Sarah's tent, but she was Abraham's wife, and she supported him in everything that he did, whether it be outside the tent or inside the tent. Her mission was the same as Abraham's mission. Her tent was special, just like Abraham's tent was special. Normally, when a young man takes a wife, he brings her to his tent, not his mother's tent. So Abraham was in agreement with them moving into Sarah's tent because Rebekah was going to carry out the same mission as Sarah. She was going to be a mother to nations. Now, does that get to where you were going?
Yes.
Okay, now, that leaves us with a couple of minutes to do something entirely different. Chapter 25, verse 1. This deals with Abraham's descendants. So if someone could read a little bit, please.
Abraham took another wife.
There. Let's go to Isaiah. Chapter 60. We have heard Joshua talk about the book of Isaiah and how he goes through the book of Isaiah in the weeks leading up to the Feast of Trumpets. And this is in the last portion of Isaiah, the last third of the last half of Isaiah.
What chapter is it again?
Chapter 60, verse 6. Listen to the names. A multitude of camels will cover you, young camels of Midian, Ephah, all chosen from Sheba will come. They will bring gold and frankincense and proclaim the praises of Adonai.
Is that leading up to the Magi?
You got that thought too?
The gold and the frankincense.
Oh, I'm glad I'm not alone. Matthew 2, chapter 2, verse 1. When Jesus was born in Bethlehem of Judea in the days of Herod the king, behold, there came wise men from the east to Jerusalem. And when they had come into the house, they saw the young child and Mary with Mary his mother, and they fell down and worshipped him. And when they had opened their treasures, they presented him gifts, gold and frankincense and myrrh. I wonder, are these the descendants of Keturah?
Possibly. Comment?
I'd like to,
At least they're from the same area.
I'd like to expand on that just a little bit.
Okay.
If you don't mind. When we look at this,
One last thing, two last things, if I may. In chapter 25, verse 7.
Genesis.
And these are the days of the years of Abraham's life, which he lived 160 years. Then Abraham gave up the ghost, and he died at good old age, an old man full of years, and was gathered to his people. And his sons, Isaac, who was 75, and his sons Esau and Jacob were 15, and Ishmael was 89. Isaac and Ishmael buried him in the cave of Machpelah, in the field of Ephron, the son of Zohar, the field which Abraham purchased from the sons of Heth, where Abraham buried Sarah, his wife. And it came to pass, after the death of Abraham, God blessed his son Isaac, and Isaac dwelt by the well of Lathorah. And then in chapter 25, verse 12, it says this, "Now these are the generations of Ishmael, Abraham's son, whom Hagar, the Egyptian, Sarah's handmaid, bare unto Abraham. These are the names of the sons of Ishmael by their names according to their generations. The firstborn of Ishmael, Nebajuth," wow, I ought to have somebody else read this, "and Nadar, and Abiel, and Mibsam, and Mishma, and Duma, and Massa, and Hadar, and Temuah, Jetur, Nephtish, and Kadima. These are the sons of Ishmael, and these are their names by their towns and by their castles, 12 princes according to their nations. And these are the years of the life of Ishmael. He lived 137 years. He gave up the ghost." Then if you go to Isaiah chapter 60 again, verse 7, it says this, "All Kedar's flocks will be gathered to you. Nebaioth rams will minister to you. They will go up with savor on thy altar, and I will beautify my glorious house." So here now we have the sons of Ishmael, which is the first son of Hagar, and their relationship in end times, they too will come to know the Lord, and they will provide gifts and offerings for the temple.
Hallelujah.
Now, that's all I have. Thank you very much for participating.
Burl, there was one comment. I was doing an Aramaic word study about a month ago, and the man who knows ancient Hebrew and all was stating that he believed that the gold was actually a golden vessel, and the frankincense and myrrh was burned before the child, and that it was restricted. Its use was only to be used in the Holy of Holy before the presence of God, and that they then recognized that that infant was God.
Okay. Anybody else have comments? We got 5 minutes left to do whatever. And I'm just about ready to lose my voice.
Well, this portion is a transitional portion of where we're transitioning away from the ministry of Abraham to the ministry of Isaac, and the introduction of the new matriarch Rebecca. It's filled with all sorts of interesting messianic symbolism.
It seems like that there's, the way that it's written, that they give emphasis, because, and I don't know if this is my opinion, you said they're not mentioning Isaac, but it seems like they give that space to a certain person, and then a space to another, and then they mention Isaac. It seems like they're just dealing with like Sarah and her life. and they don't mention too many other people.
Sarah and her legacy, if you want to put it that way?
Sarah and her legacy, yes. So they're not
Okay.
mentioning a lot of, they're not mentioning Isaac, they're not mentioning, others. They're just giving that space to that person. It seems like that's the way it's written, to give that special place to that person, and then to Abraham, and then, to, it seems like that. I don't know.
Well, they do.
It's amplifying Sarah's life, what her accomplishments in a sense, and setting the stage for her replacement. Because that's what we're seeing here in Genesis, is with Abraham coming out of the world, being chosen by God. But he has a counterpart. He has a Kava, an Eve, and she's playing her role as patriarch. And now it's transitioning into Isaac's role and Rebecca's role.
Because you see it, and then all of a sudden, once they're gone, it's like, it's all Isaac now, Isaac is brought to the fore. And
There is one statement in here that does give you a hint about the relationship between Isaac and Sarah. And we don't know how many years Isaac spent with Sarah, but he was her love. He really did love her, and she loved him. And it says, the one word says, he took her into Sarah's tent and was comforted. So that we know that he was upset with the loss of his mother, because why else would he need to be comforted? He just acquired a brand new, beautiful woman for a bride, but yet he wasn't comforted. His mother had to be involved in it, and he was in a place where he knew what was going on in that place. He was familiar with that tent.
Well, in the Midrash it does say that her lamp never went out and her bread never ceased.
I've heard that before, yes.
There is a commentary that says that Isaac was so affected by the events on Moriah, the Akedah, and right after that is when Sarah died. That Sarah supposedly had heard about the Akedah, and that's what made her die. And so all of that affected Isaac so much that he was kind of out of it, out of the picture until Rebecca came into it.
I think mothers tend to dote on their firstborn sons, is what I think. I know I did.
Could be. It doesn't say.
Connection, but I mean, she's this it was said earlier that this first miraculous birth, and so there was this spiritual tie there. I mean, some of the sages say that Isaac he didn't go with his father. He went actually to his relatives, the house of Aber, and studied his house of learning, and then returned. We see him out in the field. The field is another symbolic aspect of the world, and he was out there meditating, praying.
Right.
And he comes in.
Walking among the trees, yeah.
Okay, it is that time. We need to close. Would you be so kind as to close us today, please?